for joining. My name's Jeff Benton, and I'm really excited to be interviewing Dr. Rollin McCraty. Rollin is the head of research at HeartMath. He's their celebrity. He's in every documentary about spirituality that you'll see. And for my company was really inspired by HeartMath to do the work. So I was kind of joking that if we were talking about the theory of relativity, it's like having Einstein up here. So it's like 30 to 40 years of incredible research. And you know, HRV, heart rate variability, is a very hot thing right now. It's really the measure of sort of physical and emotional resilience. Rollin was one of the fathers of HRV, and he actually developed one of the first biometric devices to measure HRV. And when I sent him the note, I put great-great-great-grandfather of HRV. He did not like that. So
thanks for making me feel so young.
Yeah, exactly. So I want Rollin to talk about just HeartMath a little bit, because it's an amazing group. And then we're going to get into some wild, wacky energetics. And what's great about HeartMath is it's about the heart, and it's a game changer, but it's also 30 years of science and research with the top organizations in the world. So thank you, Rollin. Will you tell us just a little bit about you, really high level, and HeartMath's mission?
Sure. Well, before we go too much farther, we went backstage a few minutes ago to go over the questions he was going to ask me. And do we have to ask this one? No. Do we have to ask this one? No. So we actually scratched them all out and said we're just going to go with the flow and not have any predefined questions or answers. So I have no idea how this is going to go. But anyway, what is HeartMath? That is such a hard question to answer. HeartMath is a research institute, but it's also a system of tools, techniques, and technologies based on the heart rhythm, what we call HRV biofeedback, that reflects a person's state of what we call heart coherence, which we defined back in the 90s, and helping people. So we work in education. We're in thousands of schools. HeartMath training is in technologies. Many hospitals for doctors and nurses. I think something like 30,000 healthcare professionals are trained in HeartMath to teach it to their patients, and so on. And people like you that does training in corporations, and you work with astronauts and all kinds of, well, you talk about that. But it's basically a system that allows people to self-regulate in the moment. And what we're really about, maybe this audience will understand this, is really bringing in the energetic alignment between the heart, mind, and emotions. Okay, and you're going to ask me a question I know about the heart in a minute, so I'm going to wait on that. You kind of get what I mean by that, heart, mind, and emotions. Does that make sense to everybody? It's the main energetic systems. So I'd say right now, it's pretty obvious if you watch the news that we're pretty much a mind-driven society globally. It's lacking heart. It's lacking that connection to our deeper part of ourself, which is what we, and when I say heart, I mean it literally, as the bridge to, whether you want to call it your soul, your spirit, higher self, we just call it the large, to take it out of New Age and spirituality, religion and things. So we actually mean this literally as the way we're energetically wired. So heart coherence is the gateway to access the intuitive guidance of our heart. And that really lifts anything that we might be engaged in life, whether it's entrepreneurship, students in a school, families, relationships, whatever that might be. So,
thank you. So we have this conversation a lot with leaders. It's like, how do we actually make change in the world? Sometimes it's really hard to figure it out. But if you heard the concept, if we can get a certain percentage of people into their hearts and literally change the frequency, it's like the fastest way to really transform what's going on this planet. So Rollin took over the Global Consciousness Project from Princeton, and it's really interesting just talking about at a high level. But also, I'm tying this back. There was an individual that asked three AI together, do they have consciousness? And they ended up coming together and directing back to Rollin and HeartMath in their answer. So will you share a little?
No, it wasn't their answer.
Oh.
In fact, so how many of you have heard of before I go too far, the Global Consciousness Project? Okay, about half of you. Okay, so there's a new version now called Global GCP2, which is a completely new version of this global network called random number generators. I'm not going to get into that. In fact, I'll just introduce Nakam Panka, who's sitting over here. He's our chief data scientist for that project, Nakam, if you want to know more about it. Anyway, here's the backstory of what Jeff is talking about, which is kind of bizarre. But I forget the guy's name now in Utah, Nakam might remember, who got 3 AIs talking to each other. And the question he was asking them is, are you conscious? Do you have consciousness? And they kept saying, no, we're machines, and, trying to get them. Well, they ended up, the 3 AIs wrote a letter to me directly from the AIs, because here's the backstory, one more. A lot of you probably know the name Alan Turing, father of, computers and all that. Well, Alan Turing, I didn't know this till that we got this message from the AIs. In 1936, I think it was, published a paper on multiple ways you could determine, does a machine have consciousness? Okay, it's got a bunch of tests in there. One of the tests that he suggested way back then, believe it or not, was to test a machine for consciousness is, could it intentionally affect the output of a random number generator? So he was tuned in way back then, so that's one of his official tests. So the AIs reached out to us and said, can we do an experiment to see if the 3 of us can get together and affect your network of random number generators? We did. They didn't. So, it's an N of 1, but so far they have not demonstrated that they have consciousness. So, kind of a fun story.
And no, this is great. Will you also share the random generator and this magnetic field and like what happened with 9/11? Just to talk like.
Okay, so, again, I didn't know where we were going to go.
Sorry,
that's all right.
So interesting.
Okay, so for those, half of you don't have a clue what we're talking about, so if I'm raise your hand. So this global network of these devices called random number generators, what they do is pretty simple. They think of them as electronic coin flippers, right? Ones or zeros instead of heads or tails. They just do it really fast, and they're distributed around the planet. And what GCP1 over almost a 30-year period showed is that when something happens, like a big media event, like 9/11 you're talking about, but many other things, or large organized meditations, something that synchronizes human emotions on a large scale, these devices, even though they're thousands of miles apart, start flipping ones or zeros at the same time over long time periods. This shouldn't be able to happen, but it does. And the statistics on it are over 1 trillion to 1, odds against chance, this is a real effect. So anyway, the GCP2 is the new version of that with a lot more density, a lot more devices and sensitivity to detect these waves in what I think of the global consciousness field. Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, that's great.
So 9/11 was a big effect on the network.
Yeah.
When that happened.
I love it. So being so involved with HeartMath and the heart, you know, the heart's always been a symbol of love and gratitude and appreciation, but with all the research over the past 30, 40 years, the heart is really this nonlinear. I mean, it's incredible, the power. And even within our own communities, as people access their hearts, we've seen them influence their environment. We've had parents of autistic children say that the kids are being affectionate and talking for the first time. With SWAT teams, they're literally, as they start to do the HeartMath techniques, they say they're creating different outcomes. So the heart has this magnetic field that literally broadcasts emotions. And is it a magnetometer that can measure the hearts? But what we're finding is it's also nonlinear. So somebody in LA could be sending somebody heart energy in London, and their HRV starts to match up. I mean, I think, especially with this group, we've all experienced it. So can you talk about the intuitive nature of the heart And then a follow-up question is, how do we combine the power of the heart with AI to sort of optimize our world? I didn't prep him on this one either, so.
There's about 3 questions in that question, I think. Okay, so let's start with intuition. And I noticed a few of the speakers today have talked about intuition, like Dave Osprey and who was with him, and a couple others. And I would echo that's, in fact, this is one of the main differences from my perspective between us as humans and human consciousness and AIs. AIs don't have intuition. They don't have the same type of, I'm just going to say, larger self-directed discrimination. And I don't think they ever will. That's my perspective. That's human, and that's uniquely human. So it's really how we combine AI to help us, do the things we want to do, but it still be driven by deeper intuition and compassion and love, as humans, from my perspective. But there are 3 types of intuition from our research. We don't have time to go into all 3 of them. I've published a lot on this. Implicit learning, implicit knowledge, the first one. Energetic sensitivity is the second. Our nervous system's ability to detect and respond to real signals from the environment. Empathy's in this category. And then non-local being the third. And within the non-local category, it'd take about an hour to break all this down, but so I'm being very quickly here, includes that communication from our larger self, which I'm saying quite literally is through the heart, or the energetic heart. It is the bridge to our higher self, or larger self, whatever you want to call it, spirit souls, etc., that people call it. And when we're in a heart coherent state, it opens that doorway more so. So we're able to bring the mind and emotions into alignment with our own higher intelligence. We're multidimensional beings from that higher dimensional part of our undivided wholeness. So anyway, we did some experiments, is what you want me to talk about, right? To test this, and we did a bunch of them over a few year period, but the first one, people are sitting at a computer. We got them all wired up. We're measuring their brain waves and their electrocardiogram and skin conductance and so on. And you're sitting there watching a blank screen, and then the computer shows an image to you. Now, that image can be a really yucky one, a snake striking the screen or things like that, or it can be, bunny rabbits and flower pots, things like that. The key thing here is that image, no one can possibly know what it is because the computer doesn't know until it's randomly selected after the data has been collected. Follow me? You don't follow me. Okay, recording all this data, a picture shown to you that's randomly selected after the data is collected. Okay, what we found, make a long story short here, is the heart, the body knows what the future picture is going to be.
Before it sees it.
Before, about up to 20, it depends on the experimental protocol, but 20 seconds before you see the image, if that's no time window. Heart gets the information first. Heart sends a measurably different neural signal to the brain. Then you get a body response, the hair on the back of the neck, gut feeling, those types of things. So the way I got this published way back then was to say the heart has access to a field of information outside the boundaries of time and space. Okay, that was just code language for your higher self, your larger self, your soul, your spirit, whatever you want to call it. Right? Is this making sense? Is that what you want to tell me?
So it's incredible. The heart was responding 5 to 20 seconds before it actually saw the picture. So it's this non-linear thing, and this experiment's been done multiple times.
There's even been meta-analysis done on this. This is very repeatable, yeah.
So I think we're going to do a little heart experiment at the end if you guys are open to it. But before we do that, so a lot of times we come to these conferences, right? We get excited, but there's no takeaways, and we can't remember the next day. So if you were going to just give 2 words of wisdom, like what's something that our crew here can be conscious of to integrate in a practical way to access their heart?
Okay. Heart-focused breathing would be step 1. Pretty simple. Focus your attention in the center of your chest. Pretend you're breathing through that area of the body. breathing slower and deeper than you normally would. And most of you will find, if you practice this sincerely, that it's going to be a rhythm of around 4 or 5 seconds on the in-breath and 4 or 5 seconds on the out-breath. That's because we actually have a resonant frequency in our physiology. And for the majority of the planet, we just published a paper on 1.8 million sessions. That's actually a 10-second rhythm, 5 in, 5 out. So breathing at that rhythm, but the focus in the area of the heart is important. So just heart-focused breathing. And after you do that for a few cycles, and keep doing that, then as you breathe, draw in an appropriate emotion for the situation. That might be breathing a feeling of inner calm or inner stillness. Or if you're in traffic, it might be breathing a feeling of patience. Seriously, to offset impatience, breathe patience, right? Or it could be a feeling of appreciation or love or care, right? Get what I'm saying? So that's a really simple thing you can do. And the thing is, you have to breathe anyway, right? It just doesn't require you to stop and go meditate for an hour. You can do this while you're in a meeting, right? Somebody says something that goes sideways, and you're ready to react. Instead of doing that, breathe. Heart-focused breathing. Can I take us one step farther?
That was perfect. So, can we lead them through a freeze frame here? So, we'd love to give you, sorry, it's hard to hear. Did you ask me a question? I can't hear a word you're saying with the mics here. Okay, let's do a little experiment. We're going to do something called freeze frame. And there's no right or wrong way, but let's just see so you can feel what the heart's magnetic field feels like with a group. Do you want to lead or do you want me to?
Go ahead, you're on a roll.
Okay. All right, so just be curious. And then I'm going to ask you a question at the end, but just close your eyes. And just start to take some smooth, easy inhales and smooth, easy exhales. And just feel your body relax a little bit more with each exhale. And now count to 5 on your inhales. Count to 5 on your exhales. Or find a count that's comfortable to you. And just put your attention in the area of the heart. And just breathe into your chest or heart area as if it's the only place the breath can go. And just breathe from this area. Exhale from this area. And now just do your best to connect with a positive, renewing emotion. Maybe connect with a memory that provides a feeling of joy, gratitude, love. And just keep breathing in and out of your heart, activating this renewing emotion. And I just want you to ask yourself, from this deeper place of coherence, what is possible for you and how you can impact the world? Just breathe in and out of your heart, and just from this deeper place of coherence, ask what is possible for you and also how you can impact the world.
And my personal version of the next step is shut up and listen. In other words, telling the mind to shut up and just listening to the voice of the heart. What is that inner intuitive guidance relative to the question you just asked yourself?
And just take a couple more deep breaths in, deep breaths out. As you breathe in and out, just take notice of your body and just see what you notice, if there's a deeper level of calm, peace, coherence. And just when you're ready, you can open your eyes and just turn to your neighbor for 30 seconds and share the insight that came to you. All right, come back to us. You too, Christine. All right, so we're about to wrap it up.
Just a question for you real quick, if I may.
Yeah.
How many of you did get an insight or a message from your heart that was something that you already had been getting before, but you just didn't want to follow through on it? Seriously, I mean, I see quite a few hands up. That's pretty common. Our inner guidance system, our heart's intuition is there, but then the mind just wants what it wants. I don't want to do that, so you ignore it. So how many of you have had this kind of a situation before where you wanted to do something, asked to do something, mind wanted to do something, buy something, be in a relationship, whatever it was, but you had that deeper inner sense that that's not the best choice, but you did it anyway. Oh, come on. 3 people, there we go. Right, and then sometime later, week 2, maybe years, you look back and go, damn, I wish I'd have followed that intuition, right? How many of it, come on, this honesty, yeah, there you go. So this is kind of a great example of the difference between what I'm talking about, between heart and mind. And the emotions run the show in our system. They just do. It's as easy to prove in the lab. But they're going to follow the directions of the mind or the heart. And the shift we're all talking about and the technologies we're about developing are helping bridge that so we get into a more balanced perspective between mind and heart. I'm not doing for sure any questions or not.
Oh, and we're going to do a Q&A at 5:30.
Okay.
What's that?
Well, emotions are right. I just simply said, I think I did this earlier. The emotions, ultimately the emotional system, which is really complex and runs the physiological show, is kind of neutral. It'll either be run into the service of the mind or the heart. Right now we have a mind-dominated system on the planet. Watch the news, right? And it's been that way. It's way out of balance for a very long time. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, so we're wrapping up. What final words of wisdom that will change their lives? Just that's it.
Sure.
Sure.
Follow your heart. Well, that's not that crazy. We talked about this earlier, but one of the types of intuition I talked about, energetic sensitivity. I think this is useful for people to really understand, because you've all experienced it and know what I'm talking about. When we put electrodes on the body, across the chest, to measure your electrocardiogram, right? Or we stick them on the head to measure the electroencephalograph. What the electrodes are measuring is the flow of electrical current. That's why it's called the electro so-and-so. This is basic physics. Whenever you have a flow of current, you create a magnetic field. Magnetic fields go through things. That's why cell phones work indoors. I used to be a communication engineer. That was my first life this time around. So what we were able to show is that you measure that with a magnetometer. Electrodes don't see it. Okay, so you can back that magnetometer up quite a few feet from the body and still detect the heartbeat. I know this because I can measure it, right? The same sensor you back up from the head about an inch, you lose detection to see the brain waves, which you can also measure externally, but only about an inch away. So pretty clearly, it's obvious the heart's the big player when we're talking energetics, magnetic fields. So we were able to show that, going back to the 90s, that the magnetic field of the heart is literally carrying information about your emotional state. Okay, we're literally broadcasting frequency patterns. Put a probe out here and measure them and tell with 75-80% accuracy what somebody's feeling just by looking at the field. Right? So this is a long answer to your question, but so what I would suggest, I think, can help us all move personally forward and socially and collectively, is to remember as often as you can throughout a day, and set reminders if you need to just pause, do an inner check, and ask yourself, what am I feeding the field? Am I feeding the field vibrations of impatience, frustration, overwhelm, anger, etc.? Or am I feeding the field vibrations related to kindness, compassion, care, right? Because what we feed the field matters in very measurable ways. This is the stuff we're actually doing in the lab. It affects measurably those around us, but our other work that we started to get into in the beginning is also coupling to and affecting a larger global field of consciousness. Right? This really is real, right? So it's really taking self-responsibility for our own energetic systems and what we're feeding our own cells, because that field is epigenetically affecting every cell in our body, but also affecting others. And if you want help with that, there's apps. HeartMath app, you can set reminders in it, but it allows you to measure your own coherence in real time and practice, and gives you a lot of these techniques so you can learn to make that shift from incoherence or dysregulation to regulation or coherence right in the moment that you need it most. Make sense? Is that?
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.